The news, good evening. The Speaker of the National Assembly has maintained the sanctions he imposed on the LDS MNA, Gervais Henry, at yesterday's sitting. Mr. Henry was absent from today's session as he'd been asked to leave the precinct of the National Assembly for 2 consecutive sittings. Today's session began with a statement from the chair of the Standing Committee, Bernard Georges, who briefed members on actions that the Assembly may take when there's been a breach of parliamentary privilege and parliamentary practice. Almost all members spoke on the issue throughout this morning. The government is setting up a training and reskilling scheme to facilitate sexual workers who will be made redundant as of the 1st of July 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Seychelles Employee Transition Scheme will be launched on the 1st of July and is expected to end in December 2020. Guy Morel has been charged with the responsibility to set up the new scheme aimed at reducing the socio-economic impact on the many Seychellois who will be losing their jobs.
Essentially, the mandate of SETS would be to provide reskilling, upskilling, and training facilities for those who would be on the redundancy list, and eventually identify potential work placement and work attachment opportunities within the private sector, civil society, and also government. The reskilling will be done in partnership with all the professional centers. It is to ensure that use that period, use that window, July to December, to prepare Seychellois workforce for potential employment that could become available as a result of the restructuring of the expatriate workforce, noting that we have almost close to 20,000 posts being occupied by expatriate in the private sector. Technically, there would be an opportunity, but now it's matching the right talent with the right post. So technically a government entity, it will be part of the private sector. And SETS will be working with a network of partners from the civil society, private sectors, government. And the strategy is to try and use those who will be without a job or come 1st of July to be part of SETS. So there will be a minimum of people recruited to actually man SETS. The scheme is very clear. You have to be involved in an economic activity, and it could mean on a training program, it could be on a work placement, it could mean being posted on different initiatives to create economic activities, but it has to be pay plus economic activity for you to benefit.
The Ministry of Finance is issuing 3 solidarity bonds with the aim of raising 1.5 billion rupees. Speaking to journalists this afternoon, the Principal Secretary for Finance, Damien Teze, said the issuing of the bonds follows the approval of the budget amendment of 2020. It was stated then that the government would be in deficit of 3.7 billion rupees. The deficit is a result of the different measures put in place during the COVID-19 pandemic to bring economic relief to the country. The 3 solidarity bonds are for a value of 500 million rupees each and will be available on the 15th of June.
The first one is a 3-year bond at 7%, compounded, meaning interest is paid at the end of the 3 years. Second bond, again for 500 million for 5 years at 10%. And the third bond at 12% for 12 years. So this bond is basically to be able to meet the government expenditure as a result of decline revenue, since we're not really collecting taxes. We're short of around 1.8 billion rupees in tax revenue according to our projections we made for the Budget Amendment 2020.
As from January next year, there will be a new provision for primary and secondary students to repeat or skip a grade. Grade retention and acceleration has always been a practice in the Ministry of Education, but now a policy to handle each case has been approved.
It is 8 o'clock and most of the P1 students of the La Rosière school has arrived. While most of them watch an educational program, Ms. Josme Bampoche takes time with each pupil to help them with their reading. The Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Odile de Comamo, says this is an initiative most schools have undertaken, and it is one of the several measures to help primary and secondary students to improve academically. Despite all the measures, some teachers and parents feel the child is not progressing enough to move to the next grade. To handle such requests in a controlled manner, a new policy has been approved, which P.S. de Comamo explained.
If the child has not managed to demonstrate all the competencies required for that particular level, and if we think that by repeating a certain level, the child will be able to catch up.
The policy also makes provision for a student to skip or accelerate a grade if the child is proving to be more competent than what is expected from him or her. All parents that we spoke to, including Andy Aimable, are in agreement with this policy.
If, according to their ability, that's the best thing for them. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to see my kid getting nothing out of the school, or getting a less that she can possibly take in. So if possible, like she might repeat or advance according to her intelligence, then it's a good initiative. It's pretty much making the most out of the education system.
However, parents are concerned about the psychological and social impact it can have on the child. Child psychologist at the ministry, Katriana Motsi, says all this will be taken in consideration before making a decision, and parents will have the final say. The ministry will start looking at recommendations in August this year, and approvals will come into effect as from January 2021.
Two witnesses have appeared before the Truth, Reconciliation and National Unity Commission in today's public sessions. Mr. Patrick Laplache appeared as a witness in regards to land acquisition cases to explain the land acquisition procedures, while Mr. Mukesh Valabji appeared as a witness in the case of Sona Oliaji, whom, according to the Commission, said that the Seychelles Marketing Board, the SMB, destroyed her business. Mr. Valabji, who was in charge of the import division at SMB, was called by the Commission to give evidence about the policies of SMB in relation to other traders. Mr. Edward Anakura also appeared before the Commission after he had demanded for a right of reply to the Commission. Two witnesses also gave their statements in closed sessions. And with this, we end this news summary. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening.